life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The afterworld. A world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun, day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one, doctor, everything will be alright. Instead of asking him how much of your time is left, ask him how much of your mind, baby. 'Cause in this life, things are much harder than in the afterworld. This life, you're on your own. And if the elevator tries to break you down, go crazy. Point to higher. Don't lie. What you living in? Take a look around. At least you got friends. Call my old lady. Oh, friendly word. She's picked up the phone, dropped it on the floor. It's all I heard. I'm gonna let the elevator break us down. Oh no, let's go. Let's go crazy. Let's get nuts. Look for the purple banana. Dear, could I save the truck? Let's go.
All right. We're going to get started. It is your boy. It is 12 o'clock on a Thursday, which means that, let me straighten up my tie over here before Nathan has something to say about me. It is 12 o'clock on a Thursday. You're hearing Prince in the background, which means that you are inside the greenhouse effect, and we're here for another hour or so, 30 minutes or hour, whatever, however long we get through the topics and stuff like that. So we are going to have a good time today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I didn't even know where to start. There was so much going on in the world. We got governors fighting with mayors. We got governors fighting with the president. It's a little bit bananas out there, but we'll hit on some of the stuff. Your comments are always welcome. We'll leave the Prince playing in the background, and we'll get to it. Hope everybody is doing well. Shout out to all the people who hang with me every single week. No, not a whole hour, Anthony. I can't talk for an hour straight. Like when the radio show is normally 2 hours, and I'm playing music in between. So, and then we have, yes, I do work. This is actually part of my job, Anthony. Oh, jeez. Austin is loving the Prince music, I could see. We're going to convert Austin into a Prince fan as much as we possibly can. What's up, Bert? Down in Texas. Hope things are good down there. So, got dressed up for y'all. It's like the first time that I actually put on formal clothing or business clothing for the entire week. Everything else has been a sweatshirt or something along those lines. We're playing homeschool, and Hayden is on her lunch break, and so she's over here playing bowling on the Wii. She's actually pretty good at it, which is weird. Only because it's anyway. A couple of weeks ago, she couldn't get the ball to go down without going in the gutter, but that's another story altogether. Anyway, so she's pretty good at it. So that's her lunch break. All right, what are we going to get to today? We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's see. Why don't we start with something that's occupied my entire zeitgeist for the entire. Hold on for 1 second. All right. So, all right, Hayden, enough time. Time to go upstairs. All right, good. So, the thing that's been entirely consuming my last week or so is that a couple of months ago, what did I do? I auditioned for this cooking show on a whim, right? Like I was like, I'll send in the application, and yeah, there's no way that they're gonna choose me to be part of this audition, this cooking show thing. I was like, I'll do it for fun. So I sent it in, and lo and behold, I got chosen. Now, so that in and of itself is a lesson in yourself, right? Because I have lots of friends who are always looking at applying for jobs, and like, oh well, I'm not even going to apply because I'm not qualified for this job. I'm not qualified. I don't have the things that are necessary for me to get this job. Or more importantly, there's a ton of people out there who are more qualified to get this job than I am. And they stop yourself, right? You stop yourself before you even have the opportunity, or you give somebody the opportunity to look at your application, to look at your resume. And I think just that in and of itself is a good lesson in that even if you think that you're unqualified for something, even if you think that you're the wrong person, go ahead and apply. What's the worst that's going to happen? Right? They're going to say no, you don't get a response back, and then you're in the exact same position as if you hadn't applied. But now your information is out there. What's the best that could happen? Somebody could look at your application and like, you know what? We had not thought of this person as being right for this position. But let's bring them in for an application. Let's bring them in for an interview. That's really, you're right. Austin says it right there. Get out of your own way. So don't stop yourself. Well, stop. How do I say this? Don't prevent yourself from getting that job by stopping before you even put that application in. There are a ton of people who are in jobs where they're not qualified for, and why? They simply took a chance, and somebody's like, you know what, this is the right person for this job, and maybe they build that qualification down the line. Or more importantly, you never know if everybody else is saying the same thing, and you're like, oh well, I will. I'll stop myself, and then you become the only person or the best candidate for it, right? Don't block your blessings. Don't block your blessings. It's out there. Go ahead and apply for stuff that you're not qualified for. Again, what do you have to lose? It's not like the old days where you have to mail stuff in and you have to waste a stamp or stuff like that. But even if you do, take time. What's the deal, right? And so that was my mindset. It was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this. I know that I can cook, but I don't know that I'm going to qualify against home chefs, right? Because that's what they were looking for, home chefs. And lo and behold, I got the position. I got called. So I got called, and I went in, and so I went into this whole thing thinking, like, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy myself. At the worst, I'm gonna be on TV, right? I just we didn't know exactly what the format was, so we didn't know if it was like Top Chef where you get knocked out in the first round or something along those lines. But I just didn't want to have a situation where not Top Chef, sorry, Chopped. I didn't want to be knocked out in that first round where like you're making appetizers and now you're gone, right? I wanted to at least make it to whatever the second round was, because we didn't know what the format was. But all I knew is that I just want to have some fun. That's it. Didn't think about winning. More importantly, we didn't even know what the prize was. So we did this, and so we got out there and we started, and we finally figured out that everybody was going to cook all the way through the end. So I'm even in a better place at this point. I'm like, bet I'm just going to cook my food. I'm going to talk about my people. I'm going to talk about what's important to me, my family, my country, my food, all of those things. And I'm going to have some fun with this. And I did. Had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun cooking. Had a lot of fun, being out there in the test kitchen. For those of you who are ever wondering what these cooking shows are like in the background, feel free to ask me. There's so many moving parts behind you. So I'll say this, for every person that you see on camera, there's at least 3 or 4 other people who are part of it, right? So I have I had a camera person dedicated to me, and I had a handler who was dedicated to me. So I have at least two people who are dedicated to me. And so if you're one of the stars, you got like your handler, you got producers, and all the rest of that stuff. So it's a very interesting. The back scenes of it is very, very interesting. If you ever want to know, feel free, and we'll chop it up. It's not a it's just really interesting. Dave, where's my mask? I'm indoors. I'm in my house. One place where I can not wear a mask, right? So, um, so I got out there and I had fun, enjoyed my food, represented for Trinidad and Tobago, and lo and behold, if you haven't watched the episode, spoiler alert, I won. That's the craziest part of all of this, right? And I came in there with what seems to be confidence, but it was really just a love for what I was doing and being authentic to myself. And being authentic to yourself really sometimes is really all that the world is looking for, right? They just want to see the real you. They don't want to see you putting on airs. They don't want to see you doing anything else than who you really are. And for this particular competition, that was all that was needed, and I won. And so I get to go to the finale, and that's coming up. I don't know when that's going to drop. As soon as I figure that out, I'm going to let everybody know when those finales are. But it was a great experience, and again, if I can glean anything from it, again, the one thing that I want people to really look at is taking a chance. Well, I guess, Anthony, you haven't watched it yet. Yes, I won. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert. But so when what I've done, I see you realize today is Thursday. Good for you. I'm glad that you're in the house again. But the lessons are: be your authentic self, because that oftentimes is all that people are looking for, and that's what's important. And take those chances, right? Because there are a lot of stuff out there that people are not, think it's like, oh, that's not for me. That's not something that I'm qualified for. Take those chances, man. Like there's opportunities that are just waiting for you to snatch them, and all it is for you to take the chance. Now, so here's the thing. I cooked shrimp wonton cups with a tamarind sauce in the cup. And everybody is saying, oh, man, Hayden, when this quarantine is over, you're definitely going to have to cook that for us. I want some. I want to taste that. It's like, and that's all well and good. I'm going to tell you all this right now. A lot of us, and myself included, have had opportunities to go to people's functions, have opportunities to go to people's events, and have said, yes, I'll be there. Don't start without me. I'm in there. And then we don't show up. Right? When this is all over, go to people's stuff. If I invite you to something, and especially if you tell me, yes, you're going to show up, you better shut up. You better show up, not shut up. Please go to people's stuff, especially if you told them that you're going to show up. That's what's going to make all of the things that we're going through right now even worthwhile, making it worthwhile. The idea that we've missed each other, and that when the opportunity presents itself, that you will go out and make sure that you connect with the people that you've been saying that you miss so much, right? So when people say, hey, come to my house, I have a barbecue, or I have a poker game, or we just hanging out on my porch and smoking cigars, show up, right? Because that's what this is all about. And I think that's one of the things that we have to make a commitment to. Like Dunn just said, shut up and show up, right? There's so much that's going to go on. Like when this is all said and done, everybody's going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to have the birthday party that I didn't have in April, or that event that I didn't have in March. We've pushed it back to when everything is open up, and everything is going to happen all at once, right? And so you're going to have to make decisions as to what you're going to. But if you're telling people that you're going to show up, please show up, right? I think that it would be soul crushing for a lot of people if after all of this, and we finally do get the opportunity to go see each other, and you say to somebody, yes, I'm going to come to your thing, and then you don't show up. I think that that's going to hurt more than not being able to get out. So that's my piece there. Just if you say you're going to show up when this is all said and done. And Dunn has a karaoke show every when is it? Every Sunday, I believe. And it's a lot of fun. I was able to poke my head in a couple times. I'm not going to sing because you don't need to be subjected to that kind of torture in addition to being confined in your house. So I won't sing. But check out Dunn and Sharnice's karaoke show. That's always pretty fun. Freddie Johnson's in the house. Soror. All right. For a quick pivot, let's talk about y'all's president. There's a lot there. Saturday at 6 is for the karaoke show. Y'all's president is bugging. Straight up bugging. There are a lot of reporters who are holding his feet to the fire. So, like, why didn't you react to this? Why did it take so long to do X, Y, and Z? And he has systematically tried to make anybody who has challenged him seem like they are a bad person or a bad reporter. And it is so dangerous what is happening in this time right now. Every reporter who asks him any question that he can't answer or that he can't that he can't circumvent is all of a sudden somebody who is a bad reporter or a bad person, or that's bad, that you're he loves this word, you're a nasty person. That was nasty. I was like, well, yeah, Eileen, it's y'all's because I'm not an American citizen, so that's y'all's president. I'm a British citizen. Newsflash! And a Trinidadian citizen. I have dual citizenship for Trinidad and the UK. And as I say that, I'm looking at my door because probably INS is probably going to be knocking on my door right now. Anyway, so the whole point of it is that throughout history, anytime you have seen a dictator hold on to power, the first thing that they do is discredit the media and make the media seem like they are against them and that they're putting out false media, false information, so that when there is information about what is actually happening and there is true reporting being done, it gets debunked because this person is saying that that's a false narrative, and he attacks everybody. His favorite person is his favorite outlet is the the New York Times, and then he has taken issue with the White House reporters. Every time that somebody challenges him, those people become false reporting, and that's a nasty question, and it's really, really dangerous. And that's one of the things that we have to really keep a tab on and make sure that we are trying to make sure that there is balanced reporting. Some of the things that are out there are factual and true, but a lot of stuff needs to be challenged. And when it is, it needs to hold, and people need to hold it up to the truth and hold it up to facts and not have it just be promulgated out there as if it is a fact. When opinions become facts, we are in a world of hurt and very, very dangerous place. The piece that bothers me the most, though, is that now we are talking about reopening the economy, like opening up businesses, relaxing the stay-at-home regulations, and all of a sudden, the federal government is the default, right? All of a sudden, the federal government needs to be the people who make the decisions for everybody. the biggest tenet of the Republican platform is states' rights. Right? That's the biggest tenet. It's like we need to let the states decide for themselves. We need to figure this out for themselves. The president himself, when it came down to, thank you, Vicky. I love this tie too. It's my meta tie. It's a tie of ties. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's a bow tie of bow ties. When it came down to it, he was like, the states have to figure this out on their own. The states, I'm not going to tell the states when to do this. In fact, he started pitting governments. He started pitting governments against each other. State governments against each other and governors. It's like who's ever nicest to me is going to get the federal aid, or I'm gonna let this governor do what he wants to do, and this governor do what they want to do. And so it was all about states' rights, and it was all about states' abilities to govern themselves. Now that there is a decision that is looming as to whether or not to open up the actual economies of each one of these states, all of a sudden now it's a federal issue, and the president has the final say, and the states need to fall in line, and he can veto whatever he wants to veto. And there are governors who are like, yeah, that's not what you said merely 2 months ago. And that's not what the doctrine of your party has been for generations. So all of a sudden, when it's convenient to this current administration, states' rights are supposedly supposed to be going out of the window, and there are governors like Cuomo who are not having it. And so it's going to be an interesting fight, right? So saying the states have to figure it out for themselves is his attempt to absolve himself of responsibility. Absolutely. So when things go great, it's his policies and his procedures that are responsible for it. But when things go bad, it's like, well, they did that on their own. That I didn't have anything to do with that. And it's part of his MO. It's part of what he does. And there is a lack of responsibility and a lack of accountability in this current administration, and he throws people under the bus like nobody's business. Currently, he is defunded. He's withholding funds to the WHO because he didn't like the way that they handled it. And the interesting thing is whether or not they handled it right or wrong. When they gave the edict that it was a worldwide pandemic and a worldwide issue, he still was calling it a really bad flu and a liberal hoax. He used the word hoax, which is why right now in, what is it? I forgot the state right off the top of my head. There are protests about opening up the economy because these Trump supporters, and they are Trump supporters because they're rallying in cars and on foot with big Trump flags, talking about reopen the government. Oh, it's in Michigan. Reopen the government, and they're in opposition to the governor because she's still holding the stay-at-home order, and they're going off of stuff that he said at the very beginning, that this was all a hoax. And so now they are holding on to that and pushing that forward as the thing that they're basing this decision on. Is like, this is all a hoax, so you can go ahead and let us go back to work. And so it's like, this is why we're not going to get better. This is why this country is going to have a longer recovery than other people. But anyway, I think that it is. I think it's dangerous. I think we have a lot of things to really look at and make sure that there's some sort of accountability, because it's getting to be really, really dangerous. Like, for instance, I don't know if y'all picked up on this. A couple of days ago, Trump put out a campaign ad during the press conference. Like, literally, look at all the things that President Trump has done properly. And, he patted himself on the back. And there was a blogger that was like, well, hold up. If federal employees were used to make a campaign ad, then that's a violation of it was a Rooney law or something like that. The Rooney law, I think, is football. I'm getting them mixed up. But it's a violation of a law. And so then you can't do that. You can't ask federal workers to make a campaign ad for you and during an election. That's number one. Number two, if it wasn't federal workers and you had somebody else make this video and then you played it during a federal press conference, that's also another violation. And so there are aspects of our Constitution that are just going willy-nilly that we have to be so careful that we just don't ignore. And I'm not calling for an impeachment. I'm not calling for Trump to be removed from office immediately. The hope is that there is a reckoning in November, but we can't just make this all normal. We cannot get to the point where this feels normal. This is normal for the rest of us, and that's a very important piece where we've got to keep an eye out on this. So there's a campaign ad that he's suing to have removed. No, I don't. I did not. I missed that one. But this is kangaroo. Kangaroo. Well, yes, he's already impeached, but in terms of being impeached and removed is what I mean. And he can be impeached again, actually. So I just think that this is a dangerous time. And when 9/11 happened, one of the concerns was that the government was going to use 9/11 to circumvent a lot of our civil liberties. And so we have that same concern, but I think that there's another concern of not just civil liberties, but the Constitution being just circumvented because people are so caught up with the pandemic that there's a lot of stuff that's just happening underneath our noses and nobody's paying attention to it. So anyway, all I'm saying is pay attention. Pay attention. Speaking of people fighting with each other, so we're in New York City, or at least I'm in New York City, and a lot of the people who are looking at this are in New York City as well. And we're having a fight with the governor and the mayor. For those of you who don't know, our mayor, Bill de Blasio, and our governor, Andrew Cuomo, are constantly at war. They are constantly arguing with each other about whether or not this policy goes in effect or that policy goes in effect. And so this is nothing new for us. Every time there's a decision that needs to happen with New York City, Cuomo and de Blasio get into a fight. And they're from the same party, but it's really a measuring contest, and you know what they're measuring. And so now the latest thing is that de Blasio wants to keep all of these schools closed for the semester. Like, it's done. They, come back in September or August or something along those lines. So he makes this statement. He also makes it on a Sunday, like on Easter Sunday. Like, that's a piece that I think was especially rude, right? We're already inside during a high holy day for Catholics and a day that kids tend to celebrate and people celebrate, and you're normally with friends and family, and you're not, and you're at home and you're trying to make the best of it. And then here comes this news that that the schools are going to be closed throughout the rest of the semester. I think that it was unkind, right? It was just really unkind. The other piece of it, though, is that Cuomo chimes in and is like, wait a minute, pump your brakes. We're not going to close down anything until I say so. And I think one of the pieces is that there is a real desire for one or two of them to be the actual person driving the bus, right? So there is there are many opportunities for many times where you've seen Cuomo and de Blasio just like literally they're saying the same thing, but one of them needs to be the first one to say it. And this is, I feel, one of those things where Cuomo was saying, it's like, well, we've got to coordinate this with Long Island, and we've got to coordinate this with Westchester, and this is what we're not going to be able to move forward until we have those conversations. I'm going to tell you this right now. They're going to coordinate, and they're going to come back and say the exact same thing. These schools are closed for the rest of the semester until summer. It was heartbreaking because My kids are like, oh, I can't wait to go back to school. And then it was like, you might not be going back to school. And this is tough for us working parents as well, because it's one thing to homeschool your kid, but it's another thing to homeschool your kid while you're working from home, right? So uh, I can't tell you how hard it has been, like you being on a call for work and your 7-year-old is like, Daddy, how do you spell approximate? And I'm like, why are you writing approximate? Like, you're 7 years old. What are you writing about that you need to use the word approximate? Anyway, this is the latest thing here in New York City. And for those of you who are watching, and those of you who have young kids, I sympathize and empathize with all of you. But I do think that this is it. This is what we will be doing until the end of the semester, into the summer. I was talking to my wife, and I was saying, it's like, we should just shut it down, right? I think that I think we should be shutting down the schools and say, like, at mid-May or something like that. It's like, all right, semester's done, right? Whatever work you've done is what you've done, and then start school back earlier to catch up on whatever needs to be caught up. And I know that's probably fraught with a bunch of other problems that I'm not thinking of, but I think that there are a lot of our students who are falling behind because they actually don't have the technology that they need in order to be successful, or more importantly, they don't have the structure that they need in order to be successful. I have 2 kids, right? And we happen to be able to have enough devices that both the kids, myself, and my wife can all function separately. What happens to those families that have 4 kids, right? And where, what if they all need to be on a Zoom meeting? What happens then? Who gets the computer? Who gets the laptop? Who gets the phone, right? Do you have all of those things? Do you have the bandwidth to take on all of that? And I think that there are things that are happening throughout our city that we're not privy to right now, because there's not a lot of reporting out of it, and teachers are having a hard time with it. Students are having a hard time with it. I think that this is, we what's up, Donna? We got thrust into this, and there were a lot of people who were caught unprepared, because nobody could have been prepared for what this is happening. But I think that just promulgating the issue is not the way to go. I think that we need to get to the point where we are allowing the year to be truncated, to shorten it, and try to put as much as we can and use as much of the lessons that we've gotten, as much of the information that they've gotten, and just let it be. And we'll have to come up with a way of saying, all right, we wanted to get to here in terms of our educational delivery. We were only able to get to here, and we'll judge people on getting to here. There has to be a new normal. Okay, so I'm reading. Victoria says, Cuomo says, announced New York pause until May 15th. So the stay-at-home order is until May 15th. So we've got, oh my God, whew, another 3 weeks of stay-at-home. Every time I hear new news, it's like I've got to find, what up, frat? I've got to find a new way of, like, all right, well, this means that I have 3 more weeks of enjoying my kids and trying to figure things out. Or another 3 weeks of improving my Wii score, or another, right? Gotta breathe. It's the news, so it's funny because we get a bit of good news, a bit of bad news. So we are, what's today? Oh God, today is only the 16th. Jeez, why am I thinking today is like the 20th day? Gee, thank you, Danny and Vinny. Now I feel worse. It would have hit me once I got off got off the live broadcast, but now I feel worse because now it's 4 weeks. Jesus. All right, new 4-week plan. But I will say this, though. We are trying to keep ourselves busy here in the Greene household. We are decorating the outside as much as we can. I'm getting a lot of yard work done. Yes, I did one at 3 for the Founders, Danny. So we get some good week. And there is... so we get some good news that the curve is flattening, which is good news. But at the same time, we're extending the stay-at-home order for another 2 weeks. And I'm guessing we're making sure that we don't reinfect the nation. And I'm not a medical expert. I did not get my degree on Facebook University, and so I'm not gonna fly in the face of those decisions. The people who I believe are smarter than me are making some decisions, but it's tough. One of the things that I will say is that I am trying to catch up on some. I'm going to try to catch up on some of these shows that I have been missing out on. My wife and I, we are catching up on Ozark. We are on the final season, or the third season, and that's been a crazy show. I'd love to hear what other people are watching. I myself, without my wife, because she will not watch this with me, is I'm watching Castlevania. Yes, done. I got it. It's a month. Yes, I'm already in next week because I was thinking about a program that I'm about to tell you guys out. Donna's in Ozark, season 3, episode 8. It's a good show. If you are a fan of Breaking Bad and shows like that, Ozark is a good one for you. And just the transition of these characters, especially the wife, is just bananas. Like I said, I am also watching Castlevania. The kids and I are all watching. What do you call it? Be our guest. Be our chef on Disney. For those of you who have Disney, Disney needs to come back with The Mandalorian ahead of time so that we can watch that, because I need some of that right now in my life. What else are people watching? Anybody else watching anything really good? I'm also trying to catch up on a little bit of reading. I'm rereading Cage Bird. I'm trying to read some. I have a couple of books on there about diversity that I'm going to try to finally get to, and also some old classics. Money Heist is I see everybody talking about. Star Trek Discovery and Schitt's Creek. I've heard about Schitt's Creek, and it just seems like a weird show to me. But I'm gonna give it another try. Star Trek Discovery. I just got CBS. What do you call it? The paid service for CBS. I haven't had a chance to delve into that. I want to watch Star Trek Discovery and Picard, although I've heard disappointing things about Picard. So Westworld. Yes, we are watching Westworld. The first episode was kind of weird. It gets even weirder. So we are watching Westworld. It took a different. If you started watching Westworld at the very beginning, where it is now it's a completely different show than when you started watching in the beginning, and that happens a lot with shows. But Westworld is nowhere where I thought it was going, and it's a completely different show. If you are not watching the new Tim Gunn and what's her name? Fashion show called Making the Cut. It's like Project Runway all over again, but with the old, with Heidi and Tim Gunn. It is a lot of fun. It's with established designers and people who already have brands. So it's a really good show. It's a lot of fun and a couple of good twists and turns. So Vinny says you finished Picard. And the ending was a little bit cliche. Yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that there were places that it could have gone, but it just, decided to go down with the cliche. Um, Stan says that Westworld's latest season is garbage. Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as garbage. It's just not the show that I thought I was going to be watching, right? It's just not the show that I thought I was going to be watching. I thought that we would still be in the park by now, but we got out of the park in really quick succession. I would have liked to have seen that they have gone to all the different parks, right? Because as we are finding out, there are a bunch of different parks. And so I think each season could have been these different characters moving through all these different parks and trying to figure out what the maze was all about. I just think that we got out of the parks really quickly and we got into this next world. And I don't know. I didn't. This is not the show that I thought that I was going to be looking at. Anyway, as I'm talking, if you guys have some stuff, I know Dunn has already posted about his karaoke. If you have some other events that are coming up that you want us to support, please put that out there. Like I mentioned, we will have I will post when the finale for the cooking show gets posted. That should be coming up in the next couple of weeks or so, or next week. I don't know. But yeah, if there's something going on, make sure that you put it out there. I do have one thing that I want everybody to put on their calendars. Next week, on the 23rd, we have an event called Story to Tell. And Victoria Fleary has participated last year, and my little sister has participated last year. There are a couple of people who are on here who participated, and it is a night of storytellers, a night of multicultural storytellers, like from all over the different aspects of humanity. And so we're really gonna have a good time listening to all these different stories. We have stories about people who come from blended families. I have a story, somebody who's going to tell a story about why Africa is the best option in terms of the quarantine. And she'll explain what that means. I have an adoptee talking about their blended family. So there's a lot of different reasons to tune in, but more importantly, the event is being run by my students at Manhattan College, and I want to make sure that they really get supported. So I'll post flyers for it in a number of different places, but just check us out at tinyurl.com/MC Hangout Room at 6 o'clock on the 23rd. That's next week, Thursday, I believe. Right? So that's tinyurl.com/MC Hangout Room. And really come and listen to some of these really great stories. Elmani Viney from Kappa Alpha Psi presented last year. But we're going to have some really good uplifting stuff, some good stories to hear during the time when we're all sequestered into our rooms and into our homes, in our apartments. And so I think that that's one way that we find out that, we find some sort of joy in this now 4-week extended quarantine. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I would be remiss if I didn't thank all the people who've been keeping me sane. All my members of the ACUI clan, my fraternity brothers, Phi Beta Sigma, repping for the frat right there. All the people, in Brooklyn, and my Jack and Jill family, and my Greeks, all my Greeks. Throughout the city and throughout the country. This is this I know that a lot of people thank me for doing this, but this is really an outlet for me, and I'm happy that y'all tune in on Thursdays and hang out with me for a little bit. Next semester, when the radio show is back on and you can listen and look at the same time, or just listen, I hope that you guys stick around with me. What I think that I am gonna close up with that. Oh, here's the other thing. So we're planting. Yes. My mother bought me. My mother's a shopaholic, and I'm surprised that she's not on here. Hey, Shamika. Uh, I don't know if she's on here, but she's a shopaholic, and my mother bought me a pygmy mango tree and a pygmy plum tree, and so we planted those. Right, we are Wolfpack in the house. Mike Coleman. We planted those, and we are planting stuff in the backyard, and then there's stuff in the backyard that came with the house. And so it's spring now, and we're getting to see how this whole, this backyard and the front yard, what they look like when there's actually planted. We moved here in October, so we've lived through a winter, and now we're getting to see what the spring looks like. But it's very interesting because, as you know, when you plant stuff, you have to have a lot of patience for that. So now that we're in for 4 weeks, I think that maybe we'll get some more seeds, and we'll try to figure this out. Order them from Amazon, or if you want to take a walk down to your local hardware store. That might be a good thing for people right now. So I would get some planters, get some seeds, and start that, because as they grow, and there's the anticipation of whether they'll grow into saplings, or you'll actually find not Julie Mango. It's the little pygmy ones. It's going to be the small ones. But if I can get a mango tree to grow in my backyard in Brooklyn, I will be the king of all expatriates from Trinidad. I'm just telling you that right now. There'll be more people in my backyard during these months, during the summer months, than I can count. But plant something. Go ahead and plant something, right? And you can plant stuff that you have in the house. So if you have some bell peppers, take the seeds from the bell peppers and start to germinate those. If you have kids, it's a great way for them to really pass the time and try to figure out something to look forward to, as opposed to, it's like, what day is it? What, how we moving forward and stuff like. But the plant will help. Because they have to water it, they have to log it, and things along those lines. So my advice to you is to go plant something, right? And Shamika's planting next week. It's starting to get warm outside. If you have a backyard, that's great. Even if you have just like a shelf that's near a window. Once the weather warms up, you can open that window and let these plants get some air and let them get some sunlight. But plant something. Trust me when I tell you, especially if you have young kids, it'll help the time go by, because now it's a different way of marking time as opposed to, I'm bored, right? It's more about, we're gonna, where's the plant now? What are we doing with it now? Are we gonna plant it in the ground? Are we putting it in the pot? So in my backyard, in our old house, we used to have basil, tomatoes, cucumbers, peas. We planted watermelons one year, but it didn't work, and a myriad of flowering plants. So there was always flowering plants. So we're always planting fruits and vegetables. But so I know what we're going to do. I'm just telling you that if you want to plant something, and there are certain vegetables, especially herbs. Herbs work really, really well indoors. There are a lot of vegetables that work well indoors, so even if you don't have a backyard. So that's what I'm going to leave you with there. let the time that you have now, as spring is springing and spring being sprung, let use the time that you have now to grow something, right? And if it's one of those plants that will come back over and over again, it'll be a memory of something positive that you did when you were locked down. So go plant something. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. I hope everybody has an opportunity to get some fresh air, but still be safe out there. Be healthy, and go forth and be prosperous, man. Have a good one.